It was a Tuesday, statistically, the most uninspiring day of the week. I, Deshaun Carter, was simply trying to fuel up my pride and joy, a meticulously restored, gunmetal gray 1967 Mustang Fastback. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. A black man owning a classic American muscle car? Say what you will about stereotypes, but that car is my sanctuary. I poured years of sweat and sacrifice into bringing it back to life. I pulled into the quick stop off Route 66, set the nozzle to pump premium unleaded, and took a breath of the crisp desert air. That was when she rolled up, a pearl white Escalade, oversized, overpolished, and practically vibrating with entitlement. I'd seen Karens in the wild before, even laughed at the memes, but this one was elite tier. Her name, I later discovered, was Tiffany Whitmore. Platinum blonde hair teased to defy physics, a spray tan that rivaled a radioactive tangerine, and sunglasses so massive they could block solar flares. She waddled out of the SUV like it was a throne and squinted at me as if I were a smudge on a glass sculpture. "Excuse me," she huffed, voice dripping with a condescension usually reserved for flight attendants and baristas. "Are you aware you're occupying prime real estate? Some of us actually have places to be." I sighed internally. "Ma'am, there are 6 other pumps open. I'm nearly done." She puffed up, her chest stretching the seams of an overpriced floral sundress. "Well, it's just suspicious, a person like you driving that kind of car." The implication lingered like bad perfume. I kept my voice calm. "Suspicious how, ma'am?" She waved a manicured hand in a vague gesture. "I don't know. Probably stolen. Or bought with less than honest money. I'm calling the police." She pulled out her phone like a gunslinger at high noon. My heart ticked up a notch. This was escalating too fast. "Yes, I'd like to report a possible stolen vehicle. Gray Mustang. Plate number." She rattled it off with glee. I made a decision in that moment. Tiffany was going to regret this. She described me to the dispatcher as a large, menacing black man. To be fair, I'm 6 feet 2 inches and built like I once played linebacker. But that day, I was wearing a Hawaiian shirt covered in parrots. Not exactly threatening. Still, I stood quietly, painfully aware that to some, my very existence is seen as a threat. Within minutes, red and blue lights flared. A patrol car screeched to a stop. Officer Ramirez, a young guy with a nervous twitch, approached me. His partner, Officer Hensley, an older woman who looked like she'd seen it all, and then some, headed straight to Tiffany. "Sir," Ramirez said, his hand near his holster. "License and registration, please." I handed over the documents, steady hands masking the unease curling in my gut. Everything was legit, registered, insured, no warrants. Still, being questioned in public for existing was never a good feeling. Ramirez returned with a slight flush. "Everything checks out, but we still need to verify the VIN." As he walked around the car, Tiffany stood arms crossed, face smug. Her eyes practically screamed, "He's going down." 5 minutes later, Officer Ramirez returned. "You're free to go, sir. All clean." The look on Tiffany's face was worth framing. Her mouth fell open, her sunglasses slipped down her nose, and her self-importance cracked like stale porcelain. "But he's black," she gasped. Officer Hensley stepped forward. "Ma'am, filing a false report is a crime. Are you accusing this gentleman of anything else?" Tiffany fumbled. "No, I just wanted to make sure." "Well, now you know," Hensley said, voice calm but firm. "You owe Mr. Carter an apology." Tiffany muttered something resembling an apology. I smiled sweetly. Apology accepted. As she fumbled back to her Escalade and the police drove off, a strange thought struck me. There was something familiar about her face. I filed it away as I stepped into the convenience store to grab a soda and cool off. At the counter, a rack of local magazines caught my eye. One in particular, Desert Elite Monthly, had a glossy cover featuring a charity gala. Among the glittering dresses and forced smiles, in the background behind a palm plant, stood Tiffany. And next to her, a man I hadn't seen in nearly 20 years. Derek "Slick D" Whitmore. Back in college, Derek was a smooth-talking con artist enrolled in business law. He tried to pull me into a land scheme involving bogus lots in the Everglades. I refused, then reported him when I found out he was faking transcripts. He was expelled. I never saw him again. Until now. Suddenly, it clicked. Tiffany Whitmore was married to Slick D. Whitmore, currently wanted by the FBI for running a Ponzi scheme masked as a sustainable energy startup. He disappeared with millions, leaving investors in ruins. Tiffany's paranoia made sense. She wasn't just a Karen. She was hiding a fugitive. The Mustang? The same model Derek had obsessed over back in school. I tossed the magazine in with my purchase, drove off, and headed straight to the FBI field office in Albuquerque. Special Agent Dana Ruiz, skeptical at first, listened as I laid everything out: the false accusation, the magazine photo, and my history with Derek. When I mentioned the Ponzi scheme, her eyes sharpened. "We've been hunting Whitmore for years. If your information checks out, this could be a major break." I asked to remain anonymous. Derek had a history of manipulation and retribution. Ruiz took my contact and assured me they'd investigate. The following week crawled by. I avoided drawing attention. Every phone buzz had me jumping. Finally, local headlines screamed: FBI nabs Ponzi fugitive, socialite wife detained. There was a photo of Tiffany, makeup smeared, being led away in cuffs. The article confirmed the man identified as Derek Whitmore was in custody and under federal investigation. I leaned back in my chair, grinning. Justice with a side of irony. I texted Agent Ruiz. "Gray Mustang says hello." Later that night, a call came from a blocked number. "Mr. Carter," the voice hissed. "Speaking. You ruined my life." It was Tiffany. Venom practically oozed through the line. "Actually," I replied, "your husband did. I just told the truth. I'll get you for this. Good luck with that. I hear orange isn't your color." I hung up and blocked the number. That night, I finally made it to my rescheduled date. I gave her a light version of the tale. She was impressed. And let's just say, the evening ended a whole lot better than it started. As I lay in bed, smiling, I realized something. My Mustang wasn't just a car. It was a karma delivery system. And Tiffany Whitmore? She was just the first drop-off. But that wasn't the end. 2 days later, Agent Ruiz contacted me again. She wanted to meet, in person. Her voice carried a tone I hadn't heard before: urgency. "We need your help." Apparently, Tiffany had struck a deal. In exchange for a lighter sentence, she offered full cooperation. But there was a catch. She refused to speak to anyone but me. I met them in a secure federal facility. Tiffany looked nothing like her former self. Gone were the designer clothes and the arrogant sneer. She looked human, tired, broken. "Why me?" I asked. She looked at me, eyes raw. "Because you're the only one who ever saw through him. Through us. I hated you for it. But you were right." What followed was hours of confession, names, accounts, international transfers, partners. She was the final nail in Derek's empire. By the time we were done, Agent Ruiz called it the single most complete testimony they'd ever seen in a white-collar case. Weeks later, I got a call from Ruiz again. This time, she invited me to a ceremony. I almost declined until she said the words, "federal recognition." They awarded me a civilian commendation for my role in dismantling one of the largest financial scams in the Southwest. In that ceremony, with press snapping photos, I stood beside my Mustang in a tailored gray suit. The caption the next morning read, "Local man, classic car, modern hero." I didn't do it for the recognition. I didn't do it for revenge. I did it because someone has to stand up when others look away. As for Tiffany, she served time. Not a lot, but enough. And last I heard, she was working at a halfway house, counseling women about the dangers of blind loyalty. Funny how life works. And me? I still drive my Mustang. Still get stares. Still hear the occasional whisper. But now, when I hear it, I smile. Because every mile I drive, every road I take, reminds me that truth, justice, and karma may be slow, but they always arrive. Sometimes, behind the wheel of a '67 Mustang.